Okay, so we are diving straight into a fascinating and, I have to say, pretty high-stakes stack of documents today.
Hmm.
We have before us a major government review package, and it's all about British Columbia's home share model.
That's right. And our mission here for you is to cut through the official announcements, really understand the big claims being made, and then figure out where the evidence is supposed to be.
Specifically the international evidence.
Exactly. I think, it's crucial to establish the stakes right at the top because the language in these official communications sets an incredibly high bar.
It does. And for anyone less familiar, we should probably just clarify what home share is.
Good idea. So essentially, it's a contracted arrangement where an adult who needs support lives with a vetted caregiver or family. They're integrated right into the home life.
So it's a core part of community living services, managed by organizations like Community Living BC or CLBC.
It's foundational, and that context is vital for what comes next.
Okay, so let's get into the official announcement that really kicked this all off. Right in the ministry news release, the headline claims that BC has been, and I'm quoting here, recognized as a leader.
A leader, which is already a strong statement. It implies, a high level of distinction.
But it doesn't stop there.
No, not at all. It escalates pretty quickly.
It really does.
Yeah.
When you dig into the CLBC bulletin, the language gets even more definitive. The claim becomes, quote, BC has been a world leader in developing the home sharing model.
World leader.
World leader.
That's a claim that just moves so far beyond regional excellence. I mean, that sets a profoundly high expectation for the evidence.
If you say you're a world leader, you're saying you're at the absolute top globally.
Right, and we have to hold the report's evidence base up to that global standard. There's no other way to approach it.
Well, the report's text seems to reinforce that idea, that hierarchy. We found another line that frames it very clearly.
Yeah.
It says that other provinces and countries are also learning how to help people live in home shares.
And there's a clear logical consequence to that statement, isn't there? If others are learning.
Then BC must be the one teaching, or at least the one providing the model to learn from.
That's the implication. So as we go through these sources, we need to find the evidence of what they are learning and why it's BC's model they're studying.
Okay, so to verify a world leader claim, we need to check the scope. How wide was the comparison?
Well, the documents are very explicit on this. The review claims it made comparisons across Canada, the U.S., the U.K., Ireland, Australia, and New Zealand.
A wide net.
A very wide net.
So that immediately confirms our path forward. The evidence has to be international. It's not enough to be ahead of another province. You have to be demonstrably ahead of London, Sydney, Auckland.
Exactly. And that's the point where this all pivots from these general claims of leadership.
That's to something much more specific.
Yes, to a really pointed assertion of uniqueness. This is where it gets very interesting because the report doesn't just claim BC is good. It claims BC is one of a kind.
That's right. There's a fourth major claim in the report itself, and I'm going to quote this one verbatim because the wording is so precise.
Okay.
It says, home share in British Columbia is unique in that institutions have been closed for some time, and home share is the largest community living option, a situation that doesn't exist in any other jurisdiction.
Wow. I mean, that is a staggering statement.
It really is.
It's not just uniqueness based on, say, quality of service. It's based on this very specific combination of historical and structural factors.
So let's break that down for a second. There are two linked parts to that claim.
Right.
First, that institutions have been closed for some time in BC. And that's a huge historical milestone in the disability sector, moving away from centralized care.
A massive shift. And the second part is just as critical, that home share is now the largest community living option available.
So what the authors are arguing is that it's the combination of those two things, long-term deinstitutionalization plus home share becoming the primary model, that makes BC singular.
And that this specific situation, quote, doesn't exist in any other jurisdiction.
Which is a bold claim to make.
It's an incredibly challenging claim to prove. Proving a negative, that something doesn't exist anywhere else, requires comprehensive data across all those other countries. Much harder than just documenting your own success.
So we're looking at a review that is carrying the weight of claiming global preeminence.
Exactly. So before we can even begin to debate the truth of these huge global claims leader, world leader, unique, our first step has to be methodological. It has to be calm.
Right, just mapping it out.
We need to figure out how this review team organized its own findings. We have to locate the specific evidence that they themselves are using to support these very ambitious statements.
Okay. So we're now opening the evidence package itself. What does it contain? How is it structured? Because it's not a simple document.
No, it is not.
Yeah.
What we have here inside one large PDF file isn't a single flowing narrative. It's a collection of separate materials.
That's a really crucial point for anyone trying to navigate this. It's easy to see the page count and just feel overwhelmed.
For sure. But the framework is actually quite clear once you break it down. You have the core report, which includes things like a plain English summary and an executive summary.
Right, the high-level stuff.
Then you get the 5 main sections. Sections 1 and 2 cover the scope and the methodology they used.
And 3 through 5 is where the main analysis lives. The findings, recommendations, conclusion. That's the engine driving the claims.
But, and this is the key thing, the report doesn't end there.
No.
Following Section 5, you have several large documents that are clearly labeled as attachments. And these attachments make up a huge portion of the total document.
This is where the raw data and the deeper dives are, right?
This is where the detailed interviews, the data, and most importantly for us, the comparative scans are housed.
So this is key. If we want to find the international comparison that justifies the world leader claim,
It has to be in the attachments.
the core report makes the statement, but the proof has to live somewhere else in the package.
And when you connect that back to the need to prove leadership against the US, the UK, Australia, and so on, there's really only one logical place for that evidence to be.
Which is,
The document that's explicitly labeled as a comparative study.
and it's right there in the table of contents. It's called Attachment 5, the complete jurisdictional scan.
That's our target. This is precisely where the authors have to present the evidence to back up their public statements.
This is where we should find the data that shows what BC is doing that's leading.
Yes. The specific examples, how the comparison was structured, how it was measured against those other 5 nations, it all has to be in there.
Okay, so when we open Attachment 5, we need to have clear parameters for our analysis. We can't just take a summary at face value.
Absolutely not. If the document is going to assert leadership, that section can't just be a few high-level paragraphs about other systems.
It needs to have specific markers, things that show us BC's relative standing on metrics like service delivery, safety, cost, compared to the other nations.
Right. So we'll be looking for the report's own internal signposts. We'll be searching for places where the authors identify, say, practical examples or gaps in other systems.
And where they explicitly explain what can be learned from the BC model.
We'll be looking for their own keywords, things like exemplars, gaps, recommendations, or where they outline how different jurisdictions differ in their approach.
That's the kind of structured analysis required to justify a claim like world leader.
It is, and we are committed to the process here. We're not jumping to conclusions.
No. First step, map the document, which we've now done.
And the next phase is to read the relevant sections, starting with Attachment 5, and just trace the evidence as the authors themselves presented it.
That procedural discipline is so important with official reports like this. It keeps us focused on their foundation, on the case they chose to build. Now, before we wrap up this mapping stage, there is one more thing we need to mention.
And the recommendations.
Yes. The official communications didn't just focus on success. They also emphasized that this review includes recommendations to strengthen the program and enhance safety.
Which is vital. I mean, the whole point of an external review is usually to improve, not just to get a pat on the back. So we have to make sure that section gets the full attention it deserves later on.
Absolutely. So let's summarize where we are as we set the stage for our next deep dive.
Okay.
We've established the extraordinary claims being made: leader, world leader, unique.
And we've precisely located the evidence base that must support those claims. Attachment 5, the jurisdictional scan.
So the logical next step is clear.
It is. We have to open that specific document and review the jurisdictional scan section by section. We follow the citations. We analyze the comparative structure they use to build their case.
And that will be our mission. We have to see if the foundational evidence inside Attachment 5 actually meets the incredibly high bar set by the public statements. Does it support world leader? Does it support unique?
That is the core question. And so now we turn the page, ready to examine that comparative analysis in detail.